Exactly 2 years today, President John Dramani Mahama was sworn into office as the President of the Republic of Ghana amidst opposition protests against the validity of his electoral win. 2 years on, following a series of labor agitations, economic challenges and falling value of the local currency, among others, opposition elements will have us believe nothing has been achieved in 2 years. But is that a fair assessment of the leadership of the president? Are those critical of the country's progress so far not being selectively short-sighted? This is today's big story with me, Stephen Enti. Now, 2 years into the administration of John Dramani Mahama, several issues appear to suggest that his administration has not been on top of our country's issues. There is the fuel issue, a string of labor agitations, JIDA, SUBA, SADA corruption revelation, cholera and Ebola scare, among a lot more. We're expecting to get into a discussion over some of these issues. And then there are also the positive aspects that has been listed as some of its achievements over the year. Government groups have cited the Kwame Nkrumah Circle in Accra, the Eastern Corridor roads, or to shorten the distance between the north and the south of Cape Coast sports stadiums, and the expansion of the Oppong water system to cover Adenta and other areas are some of the positives that the government will also want us to believe that they have achieved within the 2 years. Let's get onto the telephone line now and speak to Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa, who is CEO of the Healthy Ghana and a leading member of the CPP, former director of Ghana Health Service. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening, Stephen.
Now, 2 years into President John Mahama's administration, what many people would like to remember is the issue of the power crisis on and off power supply in our country, and then a couple of labor agitations that all appear to mar the 2 years in his administration. From where you stand as a former director of Ghana Health Service and a key member of the CPP, do you see what every Ghanaian sees, or you feel that the 2 years have been quite good?
I think, on the surface, I see what every Ghanaian sees. But, I think that we should critically analyze why we are in the situations that we're in. I still believe that I think the judiciary made a serious error in 2013. Kenya had, a similar issue. Raila Odinga went to court. In a matter of 1 week, the case was dismissed. The government was sworn in, and that was it. Somehow, Ghana felt that we needed to prove that we have democratic credentials. 8 months in a government that depends almost 40 to 45% on development partners. So the whole of 2013, most development partners did not support the budget. Now that cripples any government. 2014, you had got to look at the arrears in 2013. So, of course, there will be difficulties. The doomsday is as a result of several years of disinvestment in the energy sector. And of course, it comes to a halt, and therefore, yes, whoever is in charge will have to bear the brunt of it. So yes, those difficulties are there. For me, the issue that really cuts eye is corruption. And I really don't see a masterful plan and an urgency to deal with this issue. We all know that in the public sector, corruption is pervasive. Anas did work on DVLA. It is almost have died a natural death. I don't hear anything about what happened in DVLA. National Service Secretariat, it probably might die the same kind of death. And it's because, law is not enforced in this country. And so, year on year, people get more daring and do very daring things. This is the only country where corrupt people can aspire to be president of this country. And it's almost as if we're not doing anything about it. But for me, that is a big sense of urgency that we have got to do something about. The rest, I also say that Ghana seems to believe that you've got to go from A to B to C to D. Growth does not need to be linear. Growth can be exponential. And my understanding of politics is to improve the living standards of the people. And I don't think that in the 2 years, the living standards of the people have really been touched. There are core issues that I think the president must grapple with and deal with it. And that is the living standards of the people of this country. No wonder we say we're a middle income country, but then they tell us you are not a middle income society. I want to belong to a middle income society where food, clothing, shelter, health, education is not a problem for any Ghanaian.
So on the score of 1 to 10, if you were to score the president's leadership within this 2 years, how will you score him?
Well, I would say that, the first 2 years is always a difficult bit. And the first 2 years, if you score 4 out of 10, I think you've done well.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I think he scores 4 over 10. And I'm saying the issues of corruption is where I want to see a sense of urgency. National Service Secretariat, by now, something should be happening. The slow pace of justice does not permit proper, justice delayed is justice denied. And people are in this country, and as national service is going on, people in the judiciary, people in the health service, education service, everybody is, crisscrossing and playing their own game. Somehow Ghanaians must feel that if you dabble with state money, your head will go on the block.
Right.
Public Accounts Committee, what has happened? All those who've been found guilty, I have not seen any prosecution. I've not, you tell people that they should go and pay the money back. Didn't they know the money did not belong to them when they took it? You understand? Right,
Prof. We'll have you hold briefly and bounce back to the studio. Honorable Kwabena, who is the Executive Director of the GIDA, Ghana Entrepreneurial Development Agency, is joining us here. It's great to have you, sir, at a very short notice. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
It's a new year. We all have new expectation, and we're hoping that some of the challenges that we faced in 2014 will push behind us. But 2 years, today is exactly 2 years since President John Dramani Mahama was sworn into office as president. There are many who have us believe that nothing really has happened in 2 years. You obviously, on the side of government, will say a lot has happened. Tell me your evaluation of President Mahama's 2 years in office.
Well, we can say the 2 years has been very tough, challenging, but in the midst of all that, there is progress being made. There is progress on a lot of fronts, these are the things that we need to look up, because at the end of the day, development is always incremental. It's not one single event. And therefore, it's important to understand the dynamics of that kind of incremental development that the government is pursuing. And if I say that, I mean things are happening in the health sector, the education sector, infrastructure, many things.
What exactly are happening in the health sector? As far as I know, for health sector, there were a series of agitation. Health workers were making excessive demands. I mean, I would call it excessive, but they might say it possibly was not excessive. All these things cast a negative slur on whatever achievements that the government has to show for.
I don't see those as negative slur, because look, labor will always agitate. Labor is just like any other organization. They look after their own interests at all times. It is for you to basically balance their interests versus the needs of the country as a whole. And if I say there's development going on in the health sector, you can see all over the country, hospitals are being constructed, local health pool, CHIPS compounds, military hospital in Kumasi, Wage Hospital is undergoing refurbishment, and there are development across the country. So for me, that is what we need to look at when I talk about incremental development. In the health water sector, you see recently we commissioned Oppong. There are other things that are ongoing. I mean, major, I know, what was this town? Dr. Dufour's area, Kumewu also had their water. Chebi also had the water system put in place. So things are happening. Education, government secured money to construct 123 schools. These are ongoing projects. And these things will come out at the end of the cycle of gestation period, so that people will see that things are happening.
And of course, the president has 4 years, so I mean, it's extremely unfair to judge his 4-year tenure using a period of 2 years. But you would say that the challenges came, but the president, through his leadership, has done incredibly well to deal with the challenges and still be able to move this country forward.
Exactly, because look, let's be very honest with ourselves. The election petition of 2012 was needless. Completely needless. This was a petition that held the country to ransom. And for me, as someone who has been in the Electoral Commission strong room, knowing how we declare results in this country, that case should not have even been filed in the court of law. Period. Look.
So what? That drew us back 8 solid months.
8 solid months.
So the president couldn't start on a good footing.
It was a wait and see attitude.
Wait and see attitude. Let's get to Dominic Nito, who is a deputy minority leader in Parliament. He's also joining us on the line. Good evening, sir. Thanks for your time. Hello.
Thank you very much, and good evening.
Yeah, great. Now, I do have Kwabena Champong in the studio, and the reality on the ground and what he is telling us is that the big challenges, yes, we all know the big challenges, but he tells me that the president has risen to those challenges and has done incredibly well in 2 years. The minority will have us believe that a lot has not happened in this 2 years. What's your assessment and evaluation of the president's 2 years, I mean, compared to what Kwabena Champong is telling us?
Good evening. Let me say that maybe because Kwabena Champong is quoting his new appointment, and I've not had time to congratulate him. Let me do so. He's not in the real side of life. They should just walk on the street. He should leave his office and walk on the street and ask the people of Ghana one by one, as he moves around, who are the majority, what are things are going well.
So, Mr. Nito, let's
be charitable when I say things are not well, but they are terrible. But let me leave that and say that.
No, we must not leave that. Mr. Nito, no, we must not leave that. I mean, you are saying that things are terrible. The people the people you talk to or the people we relate to every day on the street say things are terrible. It means that they're not getting jobs or they don't have money in their pockets. That's one side of the problem. What about the other side where we've seen several infrastructure projects being implemented and completed?
I was going to say that you take issues one by one. Has it improved?
Okay.
The ordinary man. You take food. Has it improved? The president himself came to Parliament to call. Because their complaint was that by 2008, we're importing 600 million worth of food. Today, the president comes to tell us 1.5 billion. Has it improved? Electricity. Has it improved? Water. Has it improved? These are the questions you ask yourself. Of course, nobody says that nothing has been done. I'll tell you something. The Oppong water project, for example, was started by the late President Mills. We in Parliament passed that law. It's been completed by President Mahama. He's taking credit for it. He's forgotten that it was the late President Mills who dreamt of it, who actually conceptualized it, who actually made it work. He's taking credit for it. We don't have a problem with that. The Mahama water system, the one in Eastern region, the Adenta water system, it's all President Mills who dreamt and brought the law to Parliament, did everything. The tertiary water system is President Mills who did everything. But governance is a continuous system. So when he's taking credit for it, I don't have a problem with that. But I'm saying that things are terrible. And he should appreciate that things are terrible and work on it. The people of Ghana cannot find food to eat. The people of Ghana are really, really suffering. Today, look, by this week, people are going to go to school. He should find out. He should ask them whether things are okay. Whether people are able to go to school. Food prices are falling for how much? Below the $50 mark. Look at how much we are buying. Over $4 in Ghana. Whether gas or whether it's diesel. For $4 in Ghana. Where on earth can you find that? Things are not good. But of course, they can choose and say, well, we are quiet. We are doing a few circles over year, a few transformations, which are overpriced anyway, if we want to take them one by one and say, yes, they are doing well and knock their chest. But the truth is that things are not good.
Right,
if you are told the truth, if you are told the truth in your 2-year term, it helps you better.
Right, Mr. Nito, I'll get some reaction from this position. I'll hold you briefly, I beg your pardon. And Professor Ajimambedu, of course, is still on the line. So, Prof, you already spoke to us and you clearly stated, and I think that that's in agreement with Kwabena Champong's position, that the 8 months we were in court to determine whether President Mahama legally won or didn't win drew us back a little. But if you look at the indicators that Honorable Kwabena Champong brought forward, I mean, he has spelt out the key infrastructural achievements that the government has chalked within this 2 years against the challenges challenges it faced in having to go to court for 8 months. And Dominic Nitiwo feels that, yes, I mean, if you step out onto the streets, things are a bit hard for people. So it shouldn't be seen as good for the government. I mean, how do you juxtapose these two positions from your standpoint?
Well, I mean, I think it's just looking at the elephant, the blind man looking at the elephant. And depending on where you touch, you know, you would think something else. The whole situation is that is why I said that politics is about improving the living standards of the people. And for me, that is what I would hold governments accountable for. If the living standards of the people has not improved, you know, Ghana's economy is still a colonial economy. And why nobody is bold enough to want to change Ghana's economy, I don't understand. So long as we're going to go to the IMF and they're going to impose, you know, a freeze on employment and so on, where can all these young people who are finishing school, where can they start, you know, on the ladder of life? I hear people say they should all be entrepreneurs. Why didn't anybody tell us at the time we finished school that we should be entrepreneurs? There were job opportunities. In every country, there are job opportunities. The job opportunities will not match the total number, but at least a significant proportion of people will start up the ladder somewhere. It's not happening in this country. And I'm not saying it is only this government. This is one of the woes of the Fourth Republic. Almost every government just panders to the Western-style governance and IMF and so on and so forth. Ghana is a sovereign, independent country. It should chart its course. And that course should make sure that every human being born to this country has a role to play in our development. Let me just say something. 42.3% of children under 5 are malnourished. And 37.7% of adults were malnourished as children. That is something that this country must deal with. Because those adults have, you know, diminished intellectual capacity, cognitive ability, and diminished physical capacity. And the impact on our GDP is very significant. And sometimes these things fall in between the cracks. That is why I say that it is the living standard of the people that any government should be judged.
Right, Prof, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. Professor Jamal Bedu, of course, is a leading member of the CPP and also former director of the Ghana Health Service. Oppong, I need you to react to Dominic Nitiwo. He's still on the line, though, and then we'll continue with the discussion.
Well, I am not surprised by Dominic Nitiwo's assertions, you know, because the kind of politics we do in this country makes it imperative for you to put down the governing party or the government just so you can make your case. But you see, we have moved beyond that. A lot of people still don't know that we've moved beyond that. Look, politics is not about putting one person down just to make a case. It's about telling what you can do differently.
So you think the opposition is
putting
the president down to make a case that he hasn't achieved
exactly.
much?
How can you tell me that nothing has happened and that there is food shortage? Where is the food shortage in this country? Where is the food shortage in this country? Tell me where. When you say these things, you need to provide some evidence so that we can verify those things. But if you come on air and just say there's food shortage, there's this and that,
I have to put that to you.
You don't enlighten the debate any further. You don't enlighten the debate. And I can understand that. They're already in campaign mode. So that is the course they will take. But you see, at the end of the day, the sovereign people of Ghana would admit there have been major challenges. Power generation has been one of the major challenges that we are grappling with. But you see, what is being done?
And you didn't create this problem.
It's not about creating of the problem. The issue for government is to solve. I always say, look, whatever government it is, yours is to solve. Make the effort to solve the problem. Because at the end of the day, Ghanaians need solutions to their problems. And therefore, you need to make the effort to solve the problem. And that's what the government is doing today. Whoever assumed that in South Africa, they'll have rolling blackouts. They have nuclear power plants that that produce power for them, but they are experiencing blackouts. Whoever assumed that? For a kind of developed country that it is a member of the BRICS. But they are going through those things. It is because planning models fell behind in terms of removing obsolete equipment and generating some of these things.
Let me get a quick reaction from you. Dominic, you heard Kwabena Champo. Quick reaction.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised the man set his own question and attempted to answer them. when I talk about food, all I said was that what it was coming to power in 2008 and campaigning, they said we were importing food to an amount of 600 million annually. And when the president came to parliament last year, he came to bemoan that today we import food at 1.5 billion. That's not fair. That is for him to analyze. If he decides to say it's food shortage, that is for him. But I'm saying that is a fact. 2008, you said we're importing food at 600 million, which was true. And so it was bad economy, we didn't know how to run the system, and so we are importing more food. Today we're importing food at 1.5 billion. The president himself came to give us that figure in parliament. Listen, an economy that has become the ridicule of the world, you go and find out what the CNN and the international media were saying, Washington Post were saying about us. That Ghana, that was visited by President Obama as a model country, has now run to the IMF for the IMF to come and help us run an economy. We shouldn't be proud of this record. That is the truth.
But Mr. Nitu, going to the IMF has not been bad for Ghana's economy at the end of the day. I mean, the fact that we went to the IMF and started negotiation processes helped shore up the value of the cities substantially.
No economy that is running well will go to the IMF for a bailout. Nowhere in the world that your economy is running well and you are running to the IMF for a bailout. It's only countries that are in trouble that run to the IMF for a bailout. Why? Why will you go to the IMF for a bailout?
Several credible economies have been to the IMF, Brazil, France, even the U.S. So, I mean...
I say when you go to the IMF for a bailout, when Spain has problems, when Greece has problems, they have to run to the IMF for a bailout because the economy was in trouble. When there was a world economic meltdown, there's a difference between getting loans from the IMF and the World Bank and going to them for a bailout where they'll give you conditions. That's what Prof was talking about. There's a huge difference. Of course, the World Bank and IMF give loans to the UK and particularly the US more than any other government. In fact, America borrows from China more than any other place. But that is not to run to them for a bailout where they'll give you conditions. You go and your budget is managed from the trust me. Look, as we said today, mark it on the wall. By June, we have to bring another budget. Once the IMF conditions are, we agree with the IMF in February, we have to bring another budget to reflect it. It's a factor. It's as true as that.
Mr. Nitu, I mean, I hear what you're saying. So what? I mean, you are evaluating the progress of the 2 years of Mahama's administration using specific indicators. You mentioned that he made promises of food, issues of food importation, and then you also made reference to the fact that we went to the IMF. What exactly are your indicators? On what basis are you saying that the 2 years haven't been good?
I've just asked you a simple question, basic human thing. What are we needing? Shelter. Has it been put? If you ask yourself, you want to tick the boxes: shelter, electricity, water, food, education. Tick all those things. Have we had access to education? Has the access to education in terms of ability to pay, has it decreased or has it increased? Market, yes or no? The answer is no. Shelter. If you go right now, we go to the market and we are looking for land. We're looking at the landlords and want to pay money. Has it gone up? Has it come down? The answer is no. So when you start marking the basic things, food, shelter, bedding, medicine, national health insurance, get fund, start marking all the indicators and see whether they are positive or negative.
Right, Mr. Nitu, I'll cut you in and bring. Yeah, I'll cut you in and bring Mr. Kobia Champo quickly. The indicators he mentioned, I mean, food, water, health, electricity. I mean, these are basic things. I mean, I'm being pressed with my school fees, my kids' school fees going up and etc. Increase in cost of food and petroleum products going up. 10% reduction, we are complaining about it. They want more reduction. These are key problems that we are facing in the 2 years.
For the kind of person he is, he shouldn't be speaking in general terms. He's a member of parliament. He's a deputy minority leader. He shouldn't be speaking in general terms.
But is he speaking in general terms?
That's what he's doing.
But
he uses the word food. What is food? What is food?
So what?
Is it about poultry?
You need him to state specifically that in the agricultural sector, perhaps irrigation has gone on, perhaps investment in agro-processing
that is
has
what
been
he
minimal.
should be doing. Not in general terms the way he's going. You confuse people because you don't actually address the issue. You talk about food. What is food? What is the definition of food? Is it about poultry? Is it about tuber production? Is it about cassava production?
Is it about oil
grains?
or sugar?
What is it? You just say food. When we are conducting statistics in country, do we measure just food or we measure a basket of goods and services? There's somebody who's supposed to be an economist and must have an understanding of these things. You see, I'll keep on saying the level of politicking in this country must improve. And it must improve by doing the basic things right, saying the right things, giving the right information, not jamming everything up and making a case. You are telling me health hasn't improved, there's no access to school. But I just told you, government has secured a loan, $156 million, to put 123 schools for secondary school access. Is he denying that that is happening? Is he going to deny that? I'm giving you specific things. Government has talked to pharmaceutical companies for drug production, local drug production, and has given them loans from EDIF to basically help them improve the drug production in this country. I'm giving you specific things. Is that not happening? Poultry, the 1 million broiler project that the government has started, is it not supposed to help the poultry farmers? These are things that are happening. So what is he talking about?
Right, Mr. Nizo,
what is he talking about?
We don't have a lot of time. So Kwabena is saying that you have been too general in your mentioning of the issues that you use as a yardstick to measure whether anything has happened at all in 2 years. Quickly, get a reaction so that we'll wrap up.
I'll take him back to what the president himself said. The president said that the $1.5 billion of imports that we now import, instead of 600 million, were basically made up of rice. We're basically made up of vegetable cooking oil, chicken, and cereal. That's what the president said. It is not me. You should go back and look at the State of the Nation last year. I mean, unless he himself has not read it, you should go back. I've just mentioned the four key issues. Okay? Now, when you go to health, and you have the most important intervention in our health system has been the National Health Insurance. The whole of this year, only January, that the government has paid for health insurance. Only January. For common fund, that is supposed to do basic things for our people. Provide water at the grassroots, provide small roads, give small development. Only first quarter has gone. And for get funds, only the first 3 months, January, February, March, has gone.
Right.
For Smith, which is supposed to help our vulnerable people, government has not paid a dime from January. And then last year, the government owes August, September, October, November, December. And for 2012, government has not paid for October, November, and December.
Right.
Not giving the specific.
Yeah. So these are specifics you're just giving us. I'm afraid we might have to just end the discussion along the line because our time is running out. So quickly, I need you to, these specifics that he mentioned, they're in the public domain. They're the reality on the ground.
You see, the question you need to ask yourself is, all the things that he said, has that stopped any of those services like NHIS from running? Has it stopped from running? Get Fund, are they still not constructing schools and doing all the things that they are supposed to do? Has it stopped?
So what are you saying? I mean, that
what I'm saying is, yes, there is a fiscal deficit. And this thing happens everywhere. There's always a fiscal deficit.
So we shouldn't use this to judge whether the government has achieved anything.
That is not the basis. On the flip side, there are things going on. You're having schools being constructed. And yet you're claiming nothing is happening on the educational front. How do you juxtapose those two
Right, now that you're here, I mean, I'll cut the conversation from there and come to Jida before I let you go. What's happening at Jida?
Well, Jida is still undergoing reconstruction.
I mean, after all the corruption allegations that came forward and after the actions that government is supposed to take, these are all within the 2 years that Mahama has been
we have gone a full circle. We have undertaken a lot of measures aimed at reorganizing the agency. In fact, we've laid a bill before Parliament that will give the legal backing to the organization since it was established without a legal framework. That is ongoing. We should have actually passed the bill towards the end of last year, but the appropriations bill took center stage, and therefore the Jida bill was not passed. Hopefully, when they get back in January, that should be done. Once that is done, it gives us the room to operate officially. Right. And trust me, we've put in place mechanisms and systems that allow us to deal with those issues in a different way.
So what happened will not happen again.
Exactly.
Under under
my watch, those things will not
happen.
Right,
Mr. Kwabena, I'm afraid we'll have to end our conversation. We're grateful that you could make time for us. Now, I must say that 3 heavily armed men have attacked a French satirical magazine based in Paris, killing at least in Africa. And whilst we send our condolences to the various journalists and their families who have been caught up in this mess, my name is Stephen Anti. We'll cover this more in our primetime news. That's where we bring the curtains down for today's big story. We're right back with an interactive segment. Do stay.